My name is Heather Toll. I have a situation where an intellectually challenged man was physically assaulted by his supervisor in the workplace. He has documented history of the bruising. The police interviewed him. They have elected not to undertake any formal discipline against the person concerned because this young man cannot stand up in a court of law and be cross-examined. Where does that leave the parents now? We have a situation where the perpetrator, in order that he has no contact with the person, has actually been promoted.
That sadly the situation that occurs daily, particularly when we look at the interaction between the police and people with disability, particularly those with communication disability, intellectual disability. The research has been very clear that that is one of the fundamental issues, the interaction between the police then supporting and making sure they create the right environment for a person with a disability to articulate what's happening to them. The New South Wales Ombudsman has also done some research, or a lot of research into this area, and they have found there's been a very low rate of prosecution, as you just illustrated, very low rate of prosecution of people who have been alleged to have assaulted or perpetrated an act of violence against a person with a disability. So my desire and the work I'm doing is to look fundamentally at how the police, because as we all know, the police is usually the first point of contact that members of the community have with the justice sector. So that is certainly an issue very much on my plate.
Thank you. However, where does it leave the parents with the person? What action can they take? Because it's not just about this one person who was assaulted, it's about all. So how do we make a stand? How do we say this is not okay? Who do we report it to?
Well, one option is to make a complaint to the Ombudsman, to the New South Wales Ombudsman. And yes, I meant to talk also about the critical role of the family in being able to be supported, but also empowered in being able to say, no, this is not okay, we want more, we want justice for our child.
Thank you very much indeed for a very interesting talk and for eloquently describing to us where we have reached since 1992 in respect to this problem. I am Prof. a professor at Sydney University, a university that has appointed an excellent professor of law with disability. You probably know the person since you were at Sydney Uni. But my question is, it's gratifying to know how far we have reached since 1992-93. You also concluded by saying you are very excited about the future. Clearly, we need much more to be done in that area, comprehensively. Governments in the past 25 years have succeeded in the area of non-smoking. People now are not allowed to smoke except on a pavement or something like that, which is a good thing for the health of the community. But I think my question is, what can we do as communities in order to achieve more in a comprehensive way in this area to solve this problem, particularly in the educational field where I work, be it in universities or TAFE and elsewhere, to solve this problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your words. Firstly, I believe you may be referring to Professor Ron McCallum,
That's right.
who was the
My
first,
colleague, yeah.
who was the first blind person to be appointed as dean of a university of any department. You know, definitely in Australia, and I'm not sure about worldwide.
Yeah.
And Ron was also the first chair of the International Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and a wonderful role model. And he got through university by asking people to transcribe to audio describe literally the law book. So he also had support. And I think that's really important to remember. With education, if you've had the right support, you can go on to do things post-school. So I'm an example of somebody who grew up thinking that inclusive education was the norm, you know, because I went to a school in Adelaide that provided teachers of the deaf and speech pathology and one-on-one tutoring and note-taking, everything you could imagine. So education, in my view, inclusive education is not that hard. Most of the solutions are available. Most of the solutions are fairly easy to implement once they become part of the teaching mode of working in the classroom. But I do understand the challenges that teachers have if you've got 30 young children running around in the classroom and they're all misbehaving. What we generally see with kids with disabilities is the overreaction. They might just be being naughty, but unfortunately they're seen as a child with a disability, therefore they're extra naughty, and then therefore we see them being excluded. So in my time I want to work with teachers and principals to ensure that they feel supported and that they have the right tools and the right environment. What can we do more broadly? You asked about the community. It's everyone's responsibility. Inclusion is everyone's responsibility, whether you're the local shopkeeper and you have a step that goes up into your shop and that includes people who use wheelchairs. What can you do? There's often things like council funding, or there's council programs where you may be able to make your shop accessible. It all starts with you. The teacher, the example I gave earlier, how can we adapt the classroom to make sure everyone is included? Employers. Most of the research that we've done demonstrates that 90% of reasonable adjustments in the workplace are around about $10,000 or less. A lot of them are around about $600 to $1,000 to $3,000, whether it be a software program, whether it be including making sure the building is accessible. There's often an overreaction by employers that, and I hear this daily, oh, too hard, too expensive, it's never been done before. So we are missing out on people like Ron McCallum. There's 1,000 Ron McCallum around, or tens of thousands around Australia and the world, thousands of Prime Ministers. If you have the right support in education, you can then go on to become an equal member of society. So it's really everyone's responsibility.
Thank you.
Alastair, you mentioned that you're excited by the NDIS, and I think most people in the room that know a little bit about it are. But in signing over or onto the NDIS, the New South Wales government had to give pretty much the disability ministry and the money for most independent services away in this upcoming year. How do you think that will affect the continuing inclusion of people with disability in New South Wales, particularly the 90% of people that won't get a funded individual package in the NDIS?
Excellent question. I am excited about the NDIS and the potential that it can have. However, as you just pointed out, only 10% of people with disability in Australia will get a directly funded package. What do we do about the other 9 in 10 Australians with disabilities who need to access the local hospital, who want to be able to go to school, and so forth? So absolutely, the National Disability Strategy, which is currently 7 years into a 10-year time frame, was designed, or with a statement by the Australian government that this is how we will implement the convention into reality, and it talks about inclusive community, non-discriminatory justice system, employment opportunities, educational opportunities, and so forth. So the role of advocacy organisations and other support organisations, I think, is critical even more, because I have seen comments from government officials who have said to me, oh, the NDIS will solve all the problems. Well, they won't, because if you've got an NDIS package that enables you to get out of the house, but what if there's no bus or accessible bus to take you from your house to your school, or etc. So you can see the connectivity, or the interconnectivity rather, of the need to make sure, yes, the NDIS package will allow you to be independent, but it's not going to be helpful if the school is not accessible, if you don't have the right advocacy support. So yeah, absolutely. I'm hoping that the New South Wales government will reconsider its decisions around the funding model for advocacy organisations.
The two big problems, I think, are focused with that access to this building. The first one is retrofitting. Retrofitting is the most difficult task, which people are slow to do. Our new buildings, there's no excuse in buildings that have been going up in the last 20 years. Retrofitting, not just Australia, try using the metro in Paris. It's a huge problem, which not enough effort's been given to. The second one, even if you've got an accessible building, we're currently going through a marketing exercise in department stores called the clutter approach to putting out displays. The aisles have disappeared. In order to get around the various displays, it's like going through a maze. Now, that's the sort of thing that we all have to be on guard about for people with disability. We want people with disability to access the community. Not just work online appropriately, but to get out and mix with other people. And I just can't believe how difficult it would be for someone in a wheelchair, let alone a blind person, to get around some of our major stores at the moment, given the way they now display their goods. Just go to Japan and compare it.
All very excellent point, and please don't get me started on what I find very frustrating is people who are so engrossed in their mobile phones out and about in the street, and I've got friends who are blind who have had their cane broken because people just literally run into them and break the cane. So that's another thing that we have to keep an eye on, in terms of literally keep an eye on, but in mind about the way society is developing, and how in some ways we're going backwards for people with disabilities. I heard a suggestion at a conference where you'll be all familiar, and Australia does it quite well actually, the tactile tile that we have when, for example, if you are approaching some stairs, it lets people who are blind or have low vision know that there's going to be a change in the pathway. Someone suggested at a conference that these tactile should be flashing red and light, or red and white, because, or black, because people are so engrossed in their phone that they need some way of knowing if they're about to cross the street. And my response to that was, no, it is designed for people with disability. People who are colourblind will not be able to use those tactiles in a way that's suggested. So we always have to keep in mind new social phenomenon or development. How does that really impact people with disabilities? And one good example, two good examples I've seen are the Department of Transport is currently, the Federal Department is currently undergoing a whole of journey process where they're understanding what does it mean for somebody, say, with a physical disability, from the minute they want, or from their home, how do they access the online information about train, can they get to that train station? So that's a good example of understanding of the whole of journey. And if one part of that journey is inaccessible, then the whole journey is problematic. Another good example I've seen is, don't quote me, I think it's Coles supermarket in maybe a Melbourne suburb now have 1 hour to our quiet hours, so that people, particularly with children who have autism, can actually go shopping with very little distraction, like bright lights or flashing lights, or, as you described, things in the way that can be very destructive for people with autism. So we are seeing some great examples. but we're also seeing many developments where people with disabilities are being included or even at more of a disadvantage.
We're out of time, so thank you so much, Alastair. I'd like to call forward Sophie Kotsis, who's got a gift to Alastair on behalf of Affinity.
Just take my glasses off, sorry. Hello, how are you? How are you going? Great to see you. Yeah, no, thank you. So firstly, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to elders past and present. Thank you to Affinity Intercultural Foundation and to my very good cousin and friend, Ahmed Polat, and his staff and executive and board members who do a phenomenal job. Former Premier Barry Unsworth, fantastic to see you here today. And of course, Commissioner. I apologise. As many of you know, it's school presentation time, and for local MPs, it is we're trying to get from one school to another. So apologies for being late. But can I just say, Commissioner, thank you for the phenomenal work that you've been doing since your appointment. We are very proud of the work that you have been doing, and you're accessible to all of us. And I know as the local member for Canterbury with a very high multicultural community, but also one of my shadow portfolios, an important one is disability portfolio. And I contacted you as soon as you were appointed, and you know, you had time for myself and many other people in the community. You hit the ground running. You've been across Australia, and you have been a champion for people with disability who want to participate in life and be included in life, whether that is going to the shops, whether that is getting employment. And one of my passions is to ensure that we increase the number of people with disability working in the public service, in the private sector, in the community sector. It's simple as that. So, you know, with your advocacy and your support, and getting some good policies out there, and the work that Affinity are doing, raising awareness in the community, we will get there. But thank you for your voice, and this is, you know, on behalf of Affinity, and you know, thank you for your work. You know, we love what you do, and keep going. So it's fantastic. Thank you.
And I also want to say thank you also to Sophie for the work you're also doing, and it's great to have that working relationship, so thank you.
No, it's great. It's great to see many friends here who are working together. Serena, many others, thank you. Great. Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I understand there's a gift for Greg, isn't there? Is that, and I think you might be presenting that gift, Alastair. So. You're on the list as doing so.
Right. Well, thank you so much for the work that you do for the Affinity Intercultural Foundation, and also for your support of the community. So, I've just sent the turkey to lunch.
All right. Two more.
Sponsors.
Okay.
Sponsor, and also the volunteer ladies. I think in your list.
I'm not very good at lists, am I? I missed some people. Okay, so we've got some gifts also for our sponsor, Sayed Yalson, and.
Can you present to?
Oh, yeah. Thank you also for your support, and it's a pleasure to hear about your history and your work. So thank you.
Volunteers, ladies who have cooked meals.
Thank you, ladies, for the beautiful meals.
and I was very humbled to be able to share in the hospitality and the food. So thank you so much for the lovely hospitality.
Okay, I'd like to call on the Executive Director of Affinity, Ed Polat, who you see here. Just before you speak, let me thank you for organising an event about disability. It isn't just about the law, although that's important, it's about cultural change. And that's why these events are also really important, so thank you for doing it.